to the Strength Personified Podcast with your host, best-selling author, Brittany Cooley, the devil's worst nightmare herself. Listener warning, your struggles will undoubtedly turn into your strength. Your excuses will become your motivation, and that victim card you've been playing, it's going in the trash. It's time to change your perspective, face your fears, and unpack all that shit you've been avoiding.
So welcome back to the show. This is Brittany, your host. Obviously, if you're here, you can call me Britt. We're a fam, okay? If you're new here, welcome. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is very exciting. I'm very glad to have you, and I hope you get everything out of this episode that you want to. You're going to get a really good dose of me. So if this is the first time you're listening, this is the first episode you've ever listened to, this is a great place for you to start. So welcome. And for my returning listeners, or my pre-posse, I mean, obviously you heard it, right? That intro is new. If you're new, you have to know that that intro is new, that you heard when you pushed the play button or it just came on. I mean, I really need a whistle because I'm very official now. Truly, like this whole thing blows my mind. It's so interesting to me how much your life changes when you just choose to believe that you can do something. It's your perception, your reality. You are in control of this. And I've known this forever. Like, this is not new information to me. But for some reason last year, just everything kind of tied up in a nice, neat little bow for me. And I had a lot of realizations and revelations that kind of explained why I was still stuck in the mud, why my tires were still turning, why I didn't, quote unquote, get anywhere. And I mean, I was getting places, but, you know, I'm the kind of person that would take 10 steps forward and then I would take 25 and a half steps back. So, I would get a little further over time, but not as far as I can go, right? There's a lot of things that I need to cover in this episode. This is going to be the rundown. We're going to talk about perspective. We're going to talk about perception. We're going to talk about reality. I'm going to give you some examples of such things and what I mean by that and the importance thereof. And we're going to just talk about, I'm going to give you kind of an inside look at kind of some ugly trauma that I dug up last year that I never, realized I had, and more explain what that did to me. It broke me, but it also fixed me. So it's just going to kind of be a full circle. I'll do my best to stay on track. We are going to channel the Orion focus. And then the next time you will hear me, but you will also see me. So season 2 debuts next week. You can still listen where you subscribe if you can't watch the video, but you'll be able to stream the video on #every platform, I believe. I'll be, YouTube, Spotify video. I'm not really sure of the other ones, but those are the main ones. It'll be streamed on my Facebook page, Strength Personified Podcast. Yeah, so it'll be video and also audio. And I'm really excited to get this started. But I could not do that without tying up all of this. It's very important. How this all came about, this episode in particular, because I was just going to start. I've been producing my work podcast for Jameson, the Orion Focus. I kind of used the Orion Focus as my guinea pig to kind of figure out the software, figure out how to edit, figure out how to shoot, the setup, everything. And so now I can kind of double back and do mine simultaneously. So, and it turned out great. Truly, I knew it wasn't going to be as hard as it was. I just made it this, mound that was a molehill. I do it all the time. We all do it. Everybody does it. So that ties in to this episode as well. So what inspired this episode was, because I was just going to, like I said, go right into the video. What inspired this was, I don't know what got into me. I had been in the car 12 hours. I had just dropped off my baby to her dad and her stepmom at a playground in North Carolina, and I was driving an hour to my sister's house. It was like the home stretch, right? I had left at like 1 o'clock in the morning. It was 1 o'clock p.m. in the afternoon, like 1:30 in the afternoon that day, and I had one more hour until I could go relax and die at my sister's house. Not actually die, but fall asleep. And I got on my recording. I got new mics, if you can tell an audio difference too. I'm telling you, we're going places, okay? We're leveling up. Nobody would ever know that I have like 200 subscribers. They would think that I had 10,000. Except I just told you that. But anyway, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The fact that anyone is listening to this, like the fact that I even have 4 blows my mind. Makes me very happy. So thank you. But I got these mics out and I was like, I'm going to see if it works while I'm driving. And I'm half asleep. Okay. I'm not half asleep, but I should not have been driving. But I get these mics out. I hook it up while I'm driving because they're portable. They're awesome. Oh my gosh. Wow. They will also be linked in the show notes of the show where I do the podcast information. Amazing. I was like, I'm just going to get on here. And I let it rip. I just kept re-recording. And then you can only record on here for 59 minutes at a time, and it cuts you off at an hour. It cuts you off at 60. So then I had to keep talking. So I have like a 59-minute one, and then I have like a 20-minute one. And I guess it is. So it's an hour and a half to my sister. And I talked that whole time, and I made a lot of sense. I had a lot of really good information, but it was all jumbled together. I mean, I did not ever start a thought and finish it, which, if you know me, that is typical, but it was like even worse than it normally is. But I had a lot of really good information in there. So instead of reworking, and that's what I've been doing this past week, I've been editing and cutting and trying to figure out how to piece this episode together to make it make sense so I could post it, and then just do like a little intro like this, and then the outro, like make sure you stay tuned in, subscribe here, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm sick of fucking with it. I feel like it's a waste of time at this point. I have it memorized. So I'm just going to go through the points. But there is a clip of it I want you to hear at the end because it has a lot of really raw emotion in it. And, I'm not one to cry on camera unless it's an accident. I don't turn my camera on when I'm sobbing. But you can really hear how upset I get in my voice. I just don't like it. I think it's cringy, and I know there's people online all over the place that do it. I try to do it like once or twice, and I don't feel authentic doing that. I don't want to cry for likes or follows. Like, you don't need to feel sorry for me. Everybody cries. Everybody has moments, right? But you can hear it in my voice, and I think it's really important in the context that I'm using it, like in the subject that I'm talking about. I talk about this huge revelation I had. I had a series of them that kind of transformed, and now March 2024, I'm down 30 pounds in 6 weeks, and I'm doing this podcast. I'm doing another podcast, and I'm a completely different human because of all of these things that just kind of click together. But I really want you to hear this last part because it has to do with my book and why it's late. If those of you are waiting for my third book, it explains why I had to cut the psh on it. I had to put the kibosh on it. And it's because, I wrote this book. I'll explain just a little bit of it. I wrote this book and it just wasn't right. It just seemed off. There was something missing. It seemed fake almost. It seemed like I had made it. I had made it but I had not. I did not feel healed completely. I did not feel conscious completely. I was still severely triggered. Things bothered me that shouldn't. Okay. I've been doing trauma healing as my jam. I've been doing it for a very long time. Very long. Since I was 14. So 20 years this year, I've been trauma healing. So I've gotten it down to a science. And something didn't seem right, and I've heard over and over again, if you're continually triggered, you need to continue to heal. There's something you need to heal that's haunting you, right? And for life of me, I just couldn't figure it out. So I had to do this deep dive, and I deep dove, like, what triggers you? Why am I this way? I looked at everything that was still a snag in my life, and I don't have many. I'm in the best place emotionally, physically, currently, and mentally that I have been in my whole life, truly. I have grown so much. I have learned so much, and I have healed so much. I am a completely different person than I was even 2 years ago, right? So I kind of had to become my own investigator and kind of figure out what the fuck happened to me. Why do I still have these snags? What about these snags lead to me being unhealed? What about it is unhealed? I've dealt with my sexual trauma. I've dealt with my mommy stuff. I've dealt with all of that. And I really have. And it took many years, but after 20, I'm good. Does it still bother me sometimes? Absolutely. But it doesn't trigger me anymore. I'm not haunted by it. I'm not constantly walking around in eggshells waiting for something to jump out at me. I've pulled those skeletons out of my closet. I've dusted them off, and I've kicked them to the curb, right? So I just had to do this deep dive. So I'm going to kind of summarize the deep dive and what I kind of found along the way, and kind of why it ended up canceling my book. But I knew that there was something wrong, essentially, with my book. And it wasn't authentic and it wasn't right, because I have to write my truth. I have to. I can't sugarcoat anything. I can't make anything seem any better than any other time. I just have to tell it like it is. I have been asked several times to write a kid-friendly version of my book, like a version without swearing or a version without the sex trauma. And while I know my book is absolutely 18 plus or, with parental guidance only, absolutely, because it talks about some real hard shit in there and it swears and it's crazy. Like some kids don't even know that stuff like this can happen, as they shouldn't ever experience any of it. But I'm not going to sugarcoat myself. No, then they can read it when they're old enough. But no, I'm not, I can't do that. So I knew that this book was wrong, but I was still going to publish it because people are waiting. And it's good. I'm not saying it's not. You would love it. I'm sure my readers would love it. They would think it was great. They buy a ton of copies. It might even get another orange sticker on Amazon. Like, who knows? I mean, it may have done well, but I couldn't do it in good faith. I couldn't do it because I knew something was missing. So by uncracking, by decoding myself and cracking my own code, as I call it, I realized what was missing from the book, and it completely changed the whole trajectory of the book and the purpose of the book, and I can't write it, is what it comes down to. I need to figure out something different. I don't know when I'm going to be able to write it, when I'm going to be able to finish it. I mean, it's written. It's amazing. But what I discovered in the revelations that I've had, my entire perception and my reality have changed around my childhood and around what happened. And I went through this phase of just I felt like I didn't know anything. I didn't know, because this is something I had been covering up and making excuses about my whole life. It's something that people have brought up to me several times. And I was just like, yeah, well, brush it off. It was like they're skeletons. Like, well, they're not really that scary. They look happy, so we'll just leave them in there. And it was them the whole time, And the realization broke my fucking heart. And it's very heavy. And I can't share it. I can't share it here. It would absolutely destroy someone that I love. And I can't do that. But, and it's not any, nefarious situation. It's just a conclusion that I came to as to why I'm so fucked up, and why I'm so angry. And I'm still angry about it. And it's just not, I'm not willing to, while it's just, it kind of paved the way for me to be here today talking to you. It's not okay. I can let it go and I can heal. I can look at it and sit with it and we'll talk about that. But I don't forgive. And I think it's really fucked up. But it's not something that's worth confrontation at this point. It would do more harm than good because I have the ability to move forward. I have the, maturity and the ability to move forward from it. And it's just not worth the strife that it would cause having a confrontation about this with who I would need to. But it's changed a lot of things. It hasn't changed anything about my story, all of that, happened. That was all my truth. But, there's just some fucked up things that there's no excuse for. And I don't know. I have to work on my forgiveness part of it. But once you sit with your trauma and once you feel it, and I mean this, I'm being very calm about it right now, but I'm going to let you listen to the clip of me just letting it rip about, figuring it out and cracking my own code. And I just want you to hear the raw emotion. I'm not making stuff up. I'm not, just because I can't tell you, if I could, I would. And everybody would understand and be kind and nice, not hate me. It is what it is at this point. So I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to publish that book. I don't know if I'm going to have to wait until people aren't around, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't know. But what I am going to do in the interim, my plan is I have been working on my collective of poetry that I wrote. If you've read my first book, And the second edition is much better and much more put together. And it's got pictures. So if you didn't get the second edition, please do that. It is now on paperback also. But if you read my story, I wrote about how I had this notebook full of dark, deep poetry. You know, my mom found it and freaked out because it's all about death and dying, really dark stuff. But I have a whole collective of poetry in this notebook. So I've been transcribing it because it's in a notebook from 2000, literally, transcribing all of this into a book of poetry. So I'm going to send everyone a copy of that ordered the book. If you are not happy with that, I can refund you. Just send me a message. I'm not saying I'll never publish this book. Maybe I'll get to a point where I have enough confidence to, but right now I just feel like it would cause pain. Selection that it would affect might not even ever read it. A lot of people will read it, and a lot of people will talk about it. And ultimately, the selection would find out. So I'm trying to be very vague on purpose. It's funny, you get hurt so badly and you're just not willing to do the same in return, and like you've grown. Because if this is a conclusion if I just woke up one day and realized this and I was like, I would have popped the fuck off. And there's a reason why I didn't do this final piece of the puzzle, why I'm so triggered by certain things until now. Because even a year ago, it was last year, but in the middle of last year, if it was 2 years ago, 4 years ago, I would have fucking lost it. I would have completely destroyed any connection with what I'm talking about. And that's just, I can't do that. But I'm still angry, and I don't know when that's ever going to end. Hopefully soon. It's still a little too fresh. But without further ado, let's talk about my loop, because I already told you half of it. Okay, so I went on this. I first started talking about co-parenting, and that's what got talking about your reality. So I am so grateful that I have such a great relationship with Bria's stepmom. She's the jam. She is the jam. We talk every day. We're besties, but we're far away from each other. But if we were close to each other, we'd be besties. We'd go get coffee. We'd go get our nails done. We'd see each other every day. She truly is a wonderful human being. And I'm so grateful that she, of all the people that could be Bria's stepmom, she is who Bria's stepmom is, right? She's amazing. And I talk about that. And I'm just so grateful that I have a good working relationship with all of them. There's no animosity. There's nothing. But it wasn't always that way. And it wasn't always that way because I made it out to be this big bad that it wasn't, right? So I get into talking about reality. And this is something that I'm going to move forward with in the podcast. So we're really going to dive deep into reality and perception, and the importance of keeping your reality in line with what's actually happening, not what you think is happening, because that was one of the huge problems that I had to work through and get over and stop doing last year. Causes way more problems than good. But it wasn't always that good with the three of us, me working it out with Bria's dad and her stepmom. I made her stepmom out to be this ogre that was hell-bent on ruining my life and taking Bria away from me, taking me back to court, making my ex-husband stop paying child support. I created this whole vision, this persona of her in my head, because that's what it's a trauma response, obviously. They're annoying, but it happens. You automatically think the worst about somebody. And it wasn't even I was jealous of how fast, he moved on very fast, and then they were moved in together, she was engaged, and I was like, well, I didn't care that I don't want him, okay? Let's just be very frank on that. That wasn't the issue. It was just I was so quickly replaced, and now, she's everything that I couldn't be, and I bent over backwards and killed myself to try to, it was this whole thing. But I was angry. I was still angry. I was still hurt. I was still hanging on to that folder of TikToks. In my saved TikToks, I was getting ready to be one of those girls that are talking shit about their baby dad all over the internet. And I know I wrote the book, and that was my truth, and that is that. And I got it out, and it's done. But I was going to take it to a whole new level. I was going to be you know who I'm talking about, those girls on TikTok. They are angry, and rightfully so. I understand. When shitbags are shitbags and they fuck you over, they fuck the wrong person over, don't fuck with us. We are crazy. We're all crazy. I will be the first one to admit it, for sure. But that's not what I wanted my daughter to see. I wrote the book. I wrote it in the best possible way I could, with still telling my truth. I mean, I could have written a lot of other things in there, but I told what I needed to tell, and I got it out, and it's over, and I let it go. I'm so grateful that I did that. But, I still continued to create this monster out of her. And, I would get irritated because I'd want to be her friend. Like, I want to be her friend. She's amazing. But I was so pissed off at myself. I'm like, no, it's a trap. I always think that somebody that wants to be my friend and get to know me and seems really awesome has bad intentions and is going to try to take my baby away from me. She's going to try to make him get full custody. They're going to take me back and get rid of my child support. They're going to ruin my life. Like, what? That's fucking crazy. Like, no, there was never that discussed, ever. I think they tiptoed around me because they were worried that I was going to be hurt, which I was, but not in the sense that I was sad that, he was taken again. Like, she can have him. That wasn't the issue. But I was so mad, and I created this monster out of somebody who's amazing, and she's one of my best friends. And I'm so grateful that that's who was helping me raise my kid. I trust her with my life. I trust her with my kid. Her kid is my kid. My kid is her kid. Like, we have a kid together. Her stepmom and I. I mean, her dad is there too. But, and I finally pulled my head out of my ass, got out of my own way, took a step back and was like, you're nuts. You're being nuts. And yeah, like I said, yeah, we as females are nuts and especially in situations like this. But that doesn't excuse me creating this villain out of this amazing person. But that's what I did. And that was my reality. It was my reality. That was real to me. That was real. I believed that. Was that real to everyone else? No. I don't believe it was. I don't know. But that wasn't really what was going on. But I got so far into my head and I had such poor self-esteem at the time. I just created, and I fed into the demons, if you want to call it that. I don't even know what to call them. But I fed into the gossip and the rumors. And I hear somebody said that some rumor about the ring, I believed it and I fucking blew it out of proportion. I didn't have any proof. I didn't even ever talk to her, Like, I didn't know anything. Why was I mad? I don't care. That was clearly not the relationship for me. We were not meant to be together. But I just created this whole thing and it was real for me for so long. I suffered anxiety and depression and I shed tears over it. I was so upset. Why? Because I made this fake situation up. Like, how many times in my life have I done that? Well, quite a bit, actually. How many times have you caused problems in your life when nothing was a problem, but you thought it was, and then you created it to be one? I could have easily created, and I still might, no, I'm just kidding. But, I could have easily done something unhinged, like completely unhinged, and had eventually Bria would have been not taken away from me, but eventually they would have, because I would have created it, because that's what I was focused on. And I talk about this. I've talked about this endlessly. What you focus on, you become, but it's true. And I just have so many real life examples for that. So, in another option, so not just talking about my situation, let me explain to you how I explain schizophrenia to someone. So I worked in adult mental health for a long time. I worked with, the schizophrenics are by far my favorite population. They are amazing. They're brilliant and they're just amazing. They're amazing. Some, and people are so scared of people who have severe psychotic disorders and mental illness and schizophrenia. And you know what? They're the best fucking people. They are. But this is how I describe how somebody's a schizophrenic, how they believe all this stuff, right? They're, a lot of people, you hear schizophrenic, you hear, oh, they're nuts, they're crazy, they're talking to themselves, they think the government's after them, they've got chips in their head, whatever. And now Elon Musk is putting chips in people's heads. So that is not helping my schizophrenic friends at all. They see that on Twitter and they're freaking out. Anyway, I do miss mental health sometimes. I love my job now. It is my dream job, but I do miss my schizophrenic friends. Okay. So for example, this is how I explain it. If you are in a car with 4 other people, so there's 5 total. I know I'm very good at math. Thank you. There's 5 people in a car. One of the people, let's say you notice, and you're going to look at Christmas lights. I left that out. So you're in a car, you're going to look at Christmas lights. 4 of the 5 people in the car say that the lights are red and green. Red and green, both. They're red and green blinking lights, beautiful Christmas lights. And then you, the one other person out of the 5, you see blue lights. And you're like, no, these lights are blue. And everybody in the car, all other 4 people are like, no, they're red and green. They're dancing to Rudolph. They're red and green flashing lights. And you're like, no, they're blue. And eventually you'd be like, okay, someone who does not have schizophrenia, they would know that 4 other people were telling them a majority vote is saying that they're red and green. So they would be like, you would be like, in your right mind, you would be like, maybe I'm seeing it wrong because literally everyone else is seeing a different color than I am. They're not blue. You would question your, ability. You would question your choice. You would question your eyes. You would question your vision. So schizophrenic people, and this is a great way to explain my mom too, because people are like, how did she do it? Like what? She was brilliant, yes. But she was right about everything that she believed and said. Schizophrenic people, they're in a car with 25 people and they all see the red and green lights. They're the only person in the whole world that believes that they're blue. But this person with schizophrenia believes they're blue and believes everyone else is wrong. Everyone else is nuts. They're right. Okay? So that's kind of how I describe the reality. Like that's how I explain schizophrenia to somebody. I'm like, how do you, but that's real to them. They really see blue. They really do. They don't care what everyone else, they don't care what the majority says. They see blue. That's true for them. That is their reality. That is real. Okay. And I'm breaking this down very basically because it is important and we will build on it in future episodes. The reason why I love the schizophrenic population, I'm not mocking them at all. I truly think that they are the most amazing people in the world, is because their delusions are their reality and they talk to you like they are. Okay. I had a patient, wasn't a patient, I was technically a consumer when I did adult case management for Enhanced Supportive Housing in New Jersey. I loved this patient so much. She was amazing. She had a master's degree and she was like 4 credits away from getting her doctorate. I had to call her a different name than her actual name. Not that anybody would ever look her up or find her. I don't even know. I hope she's doing well. We'll call her Susan. Her name was not Susan, but for protection, HIPAA purposes, we'll call her Susan. Susan was brilliant. She was like 4 credits away I think she had half of her thesis done from getting her doctorate. She was an MSN nurse. She had a master's in nursing. So intelligent. And you could tell. And everyone who met her that didn't understand mental health thought that she was just fucking crazy. Oh, she's crazy. She has a fucking doctorate. Yeah, right. No, she really does. Like that checks. That checks out. And one day she just snapped and never came back. Kind of like my mom. And, she's just amazing. And you would think like this woman who had a doctorate and stuff. So she had terrible hygiene. Her teeth completely rotted out of her head. Okay. And this is just a few years' time. Okay. She wasn't very good at taking care of herself. She chain smoked cartons of cigarettes in days. She was not what you would think a MSN almost doctorate would do. And maybe it is. I don't know. I have not met many of them. So maybe that's what they are like. But you would have never known it if you just look at her. But listening to her talk, she knew how to do calculus. She knew how to do all the stuff that I didn't know how to do. And I fact checked what she was talking about, and it's right. But she just, kind of broke one day. And she believed, this was her delusion, her biggest delusion, and she built on it. But her reality was that there were Martians, little Martians, that come in to her house and prevent her boyfriend from coming to see her every night. He wants to come see her, and these little Martians are making sure that he's not going to. And she would describe them vividly, like what they looked like, how they talked, what they were doing. And her boyfriend her delusion was her old doctor. Her old doctor was her boyfriend. So she'd say, Doctor, I don't remember his name and it doesn't matter. And I wouldn't say anyway. So I'll say Dr. Campbell. Dr. Campbell was coming to visit me last night and all the Martians came in, and she would just go on and on and on. And it was like a continuous story, and it would be different, a little bit different every time, but everything would kind of correlate. And she just kept going. And there were other things that she was delusional about. She had, delusions about. But damn it, that was real to her. That was her reality. I had a patient in the hospital that thought he was talking to Tweety Bird. And he was completely normal other than the fact that he believed that Tweety Bird was on his shoulder talking to him. You would never know. If he didn't talk to Tweety, you would have no idea. But he was really talking to Tweety Bird. He really believed it. He saw Tweety Bird. He was getting advice from Tweety Bird. Like, what other kind of illness would you want? Like, that's what I want. I want to see Tweety Bird. You know what I mean? But that's their reality. So the same thing applies. I'm not saying I'm schizophrenic. I'm not saying that you're schizophrenic, because I'm sure that you've made up something in your life that was true. But I've done it countless times in countless different ways. I would make up this thing about somebody being mad at me, and then they would be mad at me because I believed they were being mad at me because I was acting weird. And I kept pressuring, like, what's wrong? Why are you mad at me? Are you mad at me? And then they were mad at me for thinking they were mad at me, right? So what you focus on, you become. And I just wanted to really break that down. I think it's really important because this, co-parenting thing, I pulled my, and again, yeah, it took time and it was fast. So I give myself all the grace in the world. But when I really looked at it for what it was, for what was being shown to me, the actions that were happening and what it was on, like, for real, I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Why did I think that I wasn't capable of doing a video podcast with professional? Why would I ever think that I wasn't capable of figuring out how to do something regarding media and branding? Like, why? I mean, that is what I do. My professional job is I'm a brand developer. I'm a brand director of a company, of a couple. I also social media branding expert coach. Like, I've coached hundreds of people. Why would I think I wouldn't be able to figure this out? I didn't. I didn't believe I could, so I didn't. Oh, it's too hard, so I didn't. I wasted a year just not doing it because I thought it was going to be too difficult instead of cutting my bullshit out and just fucking doing it. You just have to do it. Stop procrastinating. Stop being the victim card. Like, that's my whole new thing. And that's what we're moving forward to. And I'm not going to be a hard ass every time. And I am absolutely patient with trauma healing because it takes as long as it takes. But there's a point where you get to where you're milking it and you're making excuses because you don't want to take the next step. You don't want to move forward. You don't want to put in the work. But you're so depressed and you're so fat and you do all this stuff. Okay, but you know what the best cure for depression is? The best cure is productivity. It is checking boxes. It's checking things off your list. You got to force yourself some days to get out of bed. Once you get out of bed and you shower and you do a full face of makeup or whatever, go to work, you're fine. It's because you're doing something. You're being productive, even though you don't feel like it. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. If you're stagnant, if you're stuck in the mud, you have every single reason and you have every single ability to get yourself out of it. It's a choice not to. And it's a choice to see things a way that they are not. You really have to. We all do. But this is something that, this ties into the trauma that I uncovered and everything. It just is like a huge circle. It's like a huge full circle. I created all these issues in my head, and then they became issues because that's all I was thinking about. So obviously I was doing things to manifest the actions turning into problems, okay? If I just sat down and shut the fuck up for a minute and looked at it, like really looked at it for what it was and unplugged my ass with my head, I would have had a completely different experience. If I didn't spend, and I gained half of the weight back that I lost 111 pounds in 2022. I gained almost 70, 2023, because of all, I'm so stressed out and I'm so eating. And then I didn't gain all of it. Like, I didn't gain all of the 65 right away. It happened over time, but I gained, I think 25 or 30. I got to the 30-pound mark, half of that. And I was like, I beat myself up for the rest of the year about it. And I gained more weight. Whereas if I just got back on track and stopped dicking around and wanting somebody to feel sorry for me and how fat I was because I was eating my feelings, I was working through trauma because that's what I'm supposedly doing. I've made that my reality. I'm not emotionally attached to food anymore. I broke that. But I went back to it because that was an easy comfort for me. It was easier to eat my way through the trauma than actually process it, which I did anyway. But I just needed a crutch so I could have some yummy food. But it wasn't just one cheat meal. It wasn't 3 cheat meals. It was essentially a year. It was 7 months of cheat meals. But if I had just gotten back on track and crawled back with my tail in between my legs or not, and be like, hey, I need to start checking in again, Jameson, he would be like, cool, let's get back on track. And that's exactly what he said. He knew I was bigger. He left me alone because I basically told him to pound sand. And I came back, and he didn't make me feel bad, and he didn't do anything. He did not feed into my emotions. And I'm getting to my next point. He didn't feed into it. He's just like, okay, cool. Send me your weight. What's going on? What's your plan? And that was it. He didn't shame me. He didn't make me feel bad. But he also didn't say like, oh, I'm really glad you came around, or, oh, I was worried about you. No, like, don't just fucking work. Just move. Make a movement. Move forward. Stop using excuses and wasting your time. You're wasting your time. You could be so much further, so much faster. You could feel so much better if you just put one foot in front of the other and just kept doing that every single time, every single day. And yeah, that might seem like common sense to everyone, but some reason, me, it didn't. Like, I had to. It was just my antics. It was just who I was. And now I've learned to take a breath and take a break and sit back and look at a situation and be like, okay, am I making this to be, like, am I crazy? Or, and 9 times out of 10, I'm being crazy. Like, not everyone, and yes, it's a trauma response. Not everybody's out to get me, though. There's people that actually love me and support me, but they, can't anymore because I was too much. Like, God bless Jameson Reeves, because I'm telling you, I don't know how, knowing who he is, I have no idea how I'm still employed and as important as I am in, his family legacy. Truly, I'm holding it up with one hand. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm doing a lot of things for a lot of his businesses. I work for Decatur's. I work for Reeves Real Estate. I work for Legacy, I almost said Legacy Treatment Services. That's where I used to work. My old job in New Jersey. Oh my gosh. I haven't thought about that place in a while. That's where I did case management. That must be where that came from. Okay, anyway, but Reeves Legacy Investments. What else? Which is the Loom. That's the company that they bought the Loom under. Orion Focus Consulting. I work for all of them. And you trust me with all of them. And it's just, I don't know how, because I look back on how I behaved even 6 months ago, and I'm like, why am I still here? I don't understand. But I really appreciate it, because he's stuck it out. He was in the long haul. And I appreciate it. Because he saw the good and he ignored the bad, even though it was very hard for him to do that at times, as he's been very honest with me about. But another thing is, moving forward, this is the last piece of the circle, and then I'm going to let you listen to that clip. I tried to figure out, I was digging, why am I so successful with Jameson's coaching, right? Why do I listen to Jameson? Number one, first of all, I don't listen to my own fucking dad. My dad can't tell me what to do. He never could. I mean, he tried. God bless him. And I've said this a million times. And yeah, I feel bad about it, sort of, but he didn't fucking do his job, man. What I really needed, at 14 years old, when I was being a fucking menace, because I was, trauma-induced, and I didn't go to therapy or anything like that, which I absolutely should have, and that's a whole nother thing. But I needed my ass kicked. I needed somebody to beat my ass and show me the way. But I never had that. I grew up. I raised myself. I raised my mom. My mom died. I had all this stuff happen. I mean, she died after I was in high school, but the year after. Yeah. So I graduated in 2007. She died in 2008. But I went through all this trauma. I never talked about it, right? And I think he knew it was bad. He didn't know how bad, but he knew it was bad. I don't think anyone knew how bad it was until they read my book. And I guess I've been told that was a really dick move, not by my family, but by other people. I've gotten anonymous hate mail from people, which maybe it was my family. I don't know. I don't think so. But I've gotten anonymous hate mail from people saying, I can't believe that you would just do that and your family didn't even know. So, now it tracks. Maybe it was somebody that I was related to that didn't know. But yeah, I mean, it was my story, it was my truth. I never wanted to tell anybody. And then I had a burning desire to tell people, coined the name Strength Personified, after I hosted a walk and motorcycle ride for suicide awareness after I was flown out to Wisconsin, a woman came up to me and said, "You are the definition of strength personified." And I was like, that's it. I was like, that's my book. That's my brand. That's my book title. Like, that is it. And I wish I knew her name and I got her information. And if you're listening to this, please reach out to me and tell me who you are, because I don't remember. I'm so sorry. I wish I could thank this woman, because she's created my purpose. Like, she helped me form my purpose. She coined the name for me. It just made sense. So why? Okay, so my dad couldn't tell me what to do. I had people try. Okay, I had a lot of people try. But you can tell me about shit. And he didn't know about it. No one knew how bad it had been, but they knew it wasn't great. They knew Mom was nuts. They knew what they read in the letters that I wrote that are in the first book, the second edition of the first book. The copies of the actual letters are in there. And so everybody just kind of, and this has been my lifetime until I met Jameson, essentially. Everybody just kind of held my hand and coddled me and gave up when I was too difficult. I mean, and there were people who really tried to, force me to bend my ways and get in line and listen to them. And you know what I would do to those people? I just wouldn't fucking talk to them again, ever, if they didn't talk to me first. I just cut them off. And I was a teenager. I think that's normal behavior, but I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know, not knowing my multiplication tables was the least of my issues when I was 14. Okay. That was the least of my problems. My third grade math level was not the issue. It was my lack of understanding of society. It was my lack of understanding of how to communicate with people. I was put in a house with a man who I love dearly. I'm not talking shit about you, Dad. If you're listening to this, I'm not. Or Rhonda, if you're listening to this and you're telling my dad what I'm saying, I'm not. She's somebody who works with him. I don't think he ever listens to anything. I think he just gets word of what I'm doing. So that's why I'm saying that. But he didn't mean any of this, but he didn't know. And I love the man to death, but he doesn't fucking talk. He doesn't speak. He doesn't talk about feelings, never talks about feelings, which is a normal dude thing, but he's not chatty. Obviously, I did not get this gift of gab from him. Definitely from my mom's side of the family. My mom's side of the family? Yep. Totally makes sense. So I never learned how to effectively communicate a problem. I never learned ever, because, I raised my mom and then I got washed up. She was nuts or homeless. It was crazy. I was the boss. I became parentified at a very young age, and it just conditioned me to not give a fuck what anybody else said, because it was my way or the highway. I was bossing the most important person in my life around, who was my mother, who previously was an executive director of a nonprofit organization, speaking to thousands of people in Washington, D.C. in the early 90s. And she was a badass motherfucker. Nobody fucked with her. She was beautiful. She always wore 6-inch heels, always had her hair done, always wore her Mocha Mocha CoverGirl lipstick. She was killing it. And then she snapped, right? And now she's nuts. And I watched this whole thing unfold before my eyes. And then I became the boss. If I can boss her around, and she was like the alpha, the omega, she was my everything. Nobody can fucking tell me what to do. Okay. And that's just how I had lived my life. And, I respected, and it's not that I did not respect my dad. I didn't mean to anyway. I didn't mean to show that. If I did, Dad or Rhonda listening, I just fucking didn't care. I didn't care. He'd tell me not to do something, I'd fucking do it just because he said not to. That was me. But that was me with everybody, everyone. Nobody, my aunt, God bless her, she tried. A lot of people did. And if you just said something or told me to do something that I wasn't in line with, or I shouldn't do, I took your opinion into consideration at 14 years old, 15 years old, 16 years old, at a kid, but I didn't give a fuck. I didn't care. And I didn't receive any disciplinary treatment for it. I remember my father being really fucking pissed at me one time. He was very angry. And it was later on when I was working at a job that his sister, my aunt, got me. And it was like 12-hour swing shift. It was too much. It was too much. It was like a summer. And then I went to Cargill. And I loved Cargill, but I couldn't do P&G. It was the whole thing. But anyway, if you're local, you know what I'm talking about. I just became a patty packer. I wanted to pack some ground beef patties. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to stack toilet paper pallets, okay? But he was so mad at me. Oh, he was so pissed. But it really, truly, out of all of the things that I did in high school, maybe he didn't know, but I really think he did. And he never said anything. He never screamed at me. I mean, obviously I was a little too old to beat my ass, but he should have tried. He should have taken everything. I mean, he should have done something to beat that out of me. But again, what are you supposed to do with a 14-year-old that you haven't seen or been around consistently in 5 years that has gone through who knows what? So I was just kind of tiptoed around, you know, and by everyone, truly, by everyone. Everyone my whole life. You know my story, and then you just kind of, Jameson did not do that. He does not tiptoe. He doesn't give a shit. And it's not that he doesn't care about my history, but that's irrelevant to what he's trying to help me do. You know, I could cry about my trauma, and he'd be like, okay, that's not why we're here. Like, he'd interrupt me. I used to think he was so mean. And I get so offended. I was so triggered by it. He triggered me so bad. Why did he trigger me so bad? Why was he doing this? But why was he so affected? Why was I listening to him? Because he is the only person that put his thumb down and did not let up. He's the only person who held me accountable, like truly accountable. He knows my story. He read my book. He said some nice things. But that was not a reason for me to not weigh in the morning. It was not a reason for me to not send him my ketone numbers. It was not a reason. He treated me like everyone else. And for the first time, it was 30, I don't know, 2 years ago. It was like 32, 33. Yeah, 35 now. See, I can't even do subtraction. That's how bad my math is. But he was serious. And it's not even like, I respected him. He's my best friend's husband. Done a lot for me. Very successful businessman. Done a lot for my baby. So much. But I listened to him because he just didn't give up. He wasn't kidding. He was like, no, you need to send it to me. And he never stopped doing that. He treated me like everyone else. And, I'm glad that he cared enough to hurt my feelings. I'm glad he cared enough to stay on me and be so resilient and so consistent, because I wasn't. But he just kept reinforcing it. It's like when you keep putting a kid in timeout, he kept reinforcing it. And he's the only person that ever continually put that much effort into reinforcing me to just stay on one track and fucking do the work. Like no half measures, full ass. And that's why, and I realized, I'm like, and I've said this forever, like nobody beat my ass when I was a kid and it shows, but it really did. And it wrecked my fucking life. Like I made so many bad decisions because of that, and again, what are you supposed to do when you're 14, you got this 14-year-old, what are you supposed to do? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, especially back then, early 2000s, who knows? It's a whole different time period. It's weird, right? So all of those things just kind of click together for me. We create our own reality. Our perception is huge. Other people's perception is important. And I'm going to get into that in the show. Not this one, like my season 2, the video one. I'm going to interview people because I think people's perspectives and their perceptions are interesting. And I think we can learn something from everyone's. It's going to be really cool. But it's really going to focus on not being a victim. Something that happened 10 years ago, your whole life. Yes, people die. Yes, you go through trauma. Yes, you get hurt and abused and neglected and all that stuff. Yes. But you can't let it keep you from moving forward. And you can't stay in the quicksand. You can't stay in the cycle of suck. And I'm just not going to let you anymore. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to be Jameson for you as he was for me. Because I hear it all the time. There's a lot of you that message me and you're just like, I just can't get over. I just can't stop. I can't stop eating stuff. And yes, you can. You're saying you can't, so obviously you can't. Oh, it's just too hard. I don't have time. Yeah, you make time for other things that you wouldn't have time for, right? This is what I'm talking about. We're not going to make excuses this year. We're going to figure shit out that we want to do. We're going to heal from our trauma, and healing is important. I am not saying it's not, and it takes as long as it takes. But there comes a point where you switch from healing to milking. And I'm cutting you all off the tee. Like, we're not doing this anymore. Because it is, I mean, if I had all of these, like this circle clicked for me 4 years ago, I mean, I would be the female Joe Rogan, probably. But no, I didn't believe I could. And I was like, and who would have thought? Everything happens when it's supposed to happen. Everything is always working out for me. I just believe that. That's my reality. Everything bad that happens is for a reason. It's to prevent you from, something is blocked or something's canceled. It's because something is giving you a path to something greater or preventing you from something bad. That's just how I live now, and it's great. It's a great place here. So I'm really glad that you're here. I'm going to let you listen to the clip. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity, this platform, and I'm really looking forward to season 2 and all it's going to be. So here's a clip discussing the healing I experienced, the things I uncovered. Again, I was in the car a long time. It is what it is, but I wanted you to truly hear the raw emotion. So I'm going to play that now. I'm going to roll the clip.
So I had to dig even deeper. I was like, nobody's ever loved me back, right? Why am I like that? Like, where did that come from? What the fuck? And then, of course, I had to dig out my fucking childhood trauma Pandora box again. And I'm like, obviously it comes from something from here. Like, something happened. I need to figure it out. Because I know how to dissect my trauma. I know how to find the root of the problem with my shit at this point. It just takes me a little bit. I have to go through a whole grid. I wasn't born that way. I wasn't born with the need for somebody to love me that I love back and choose me. Like, you're not born with that. Like, I developed the need out of some sort of trauma, right? So what the fuck? Where in my childhood did it was not connected to sexual abuse in my childhood. It was not. It was not connected to my rape when I was 19. It was not connected to that. I knew it wasn't connected to that. So I'm like, where was I never loved back? I mean, I can't really think of anyone. It's like this boulder, and I know I'm making this huge, like, climactic build-up to let you down because I can't disclose what really resonated that made sense. That kind of wrecked me last year. And it's why I can't finish the book, because I realized what did so much damage to me. And I don't know how I didn't see it sooner, right? Because I was like, your subconscious covers up trauma. But I realized it was that literally laid the foundation for me to be programmed this way. It broke my fucking heart and it destroyed me. And I was so angry about it for months. I suffered in silence last year. I didn't tell anyone. Nobody knows this. Nobody knows this. It wrecked me. Like, it fucking destroyed me. And I know that if I shared this with the world, it would destroy this person. I can't love them too much. But it wrecked me. And I totally got, I got it. And I really had it took a long time. And I guess I still have it because I'm sobbing right now. I'm also tired. I just left my baby for a week, so bear with me. But it all makes sense. But then when I sat with it, and I felt all the feelings, and I wrote all the feelings, I wrote everything by hand. And I burned it because I don't want anybody to ever accidentally find it in a cloud. It's like my greatest fear. And I did all the writing, I did all the burning things that you do, and breaking the arrows with your neck and all that shit. I did all of it. It's all very symbolic, but I did everything I could possibly do to remove this from my existence because it just hurt so bad. It hurt bad. It hurt worse than anything's ever hurt me in my life. I was able to eventually, towards the end of the year, and it's weird. Like, once you do the work, you do the internal work, you look at it, you analyze it, you feel it. You have to feel the feelings. You can't push them down. I've done that before, and it does not lead you down a bright path, if you will. Because I woke up one day and I just felt better. I felt lighter. I got it. Like, I cracked my own trauma code. Finally, after 35 fucking years of struggling, I got it. And I'm really glad this is not on video. And I let it go, and I felt this like thing release from my body. It's so crazy how trauma is. Like, physically affects you. It really does. And then I was like, you know what? I'm amazing. And I don't care who thinks I'm not. It doesn't matter. Their truth is not my truth.
I'm back, and I'm going to close this out. I know that was heavy. I just really wanted you to hear that. It was really important. And while I can't really give you the details of the situation, I do owe an explanation to my readers and my listeners where I've been, what the fuck was going on, and where the fucking book is. If you would like a poetry book, you're getting one regardless of whether you want it or not if you've pre-ordered the third. And I'm not giving a timeline on that because every time I do, it gets fucked up, but it will be shortly. Number 2, if you go online and you notice my books have changed covers, they're still my books. I did that. It was driving me nuts that none of them matched. The fonts didn't match. Nothing matched. And I had this beautiful photo shoot done by my friend Stevie. She did amazing pictures for me for this reason. So I reformatted, rebranded everything. The book inside is still the same. So if you have a different cover, it's okay. It's the same book, unless you have the first one. But any of the editions that are up, they're the same inside. I just changed the outside. I completely rebranded my pages. There's a new podcast-specific logo. I've changed the cover art on this podcast 100 times. So if you think you're going crazy, you're not. It's me that's nuts. I'm too much of a perfectionist. And now I think we're in a good place. I'm not going to change anything else. But if I do, just know it's me. It's not you, it's me. Always me. Okay. Number 3, I just wanted to make sure that you know that I have a broadcast channel on Instagram. Make sure you follow me at the Brittany Cooley. Follow me there and join the broadcast channel. There's a link right in the bio from there, but I'll also place a link in the show notes. Make sure to join that. It's like a big group chat. We can all talk. You can send requests for episode topics, me to expand on something. Please send your requests. Stay tuned. I will see you next week.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with a friend, and rate 5 stars wherever you're listening. Connect with Brittany on social media at the Brittany Cooley. And send your topic request to BrittanyCooley.com. See you next time.